So what truly keeps us glued to a story,
Well,
page after page or right through the credits, it's not always the obvious things like the jump scares or the big monster reveal. Often, that deepest, most sort of primal fear, it's fear of the unknown. And the really brilliant storytellers, well, they know exactly how to use that uncertainty. They don't just show you the scary stuff. They make you wait. They build this almost unbearable anticipation, keeps you totally on edge. And that really is suspense.
it really is remarkable, isn't it, how universal that feeling is. The legendary H.P. Lovecraft, he put it perfectly. The oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown.
Mm.
So suspense, yeah, it's basically about setting up a really compelling question, or, sometimes a whole bunch of questions that you, the audience, are desperate to get the answer to. And the real skill is delaying that answer carefully while somehow making you want it even more. And this goes way beyond just horror or thrillers,
Oh,
Think about it. Will the hero actually pull off the impossible mission? Will those two characters finally get together? Or what's the dark secret that's like eating away at the main character? It's all tapping into that same powerful feeling.
okay, so let's dive in then. Our mission here is to really unpack the key ways writers build up and, crucially, maintain that suspense. We're looking at some great insights today from a TED-Ed video transcript by Victoria Smith. It's called How to Make Your Writing Suspenseful. All right, first technique. This one's all about control, really. Limiting the point of view. So instead of a narrator who knows absolutely everything, well, the tension really ramps up when the story comes through just one character's eyes, their limited view. It's about controlling what you know. Or maybe more importantly, what you don't know.
Exactly. And what's brilliant is that the characters themselves, they often start off knowing just as little as you do. So as they learn more, you learn more step by step. Think about Dracula, for instance. Famous example.
The letters and diaries.
Yeah. It's told through letters, diary entries, ship logs. You experience the horror and the mystery unfolding right alongside Jonathan Harker or Mina Murray. And because you're on this journey with them, figuring things out together, you feel this real connection. You're almost like a co-conspirator in the whole thing. It really pulls you in emotionally, much more than just being curious. It turns watching into this active experience of uncertainty.
There's a great way to put it, the shared journey. It's like you become the detective right there with the character, piecing it all together. Is there a risk, though? I mean, could the characters seem too clueless, or maybe the reveals feel a bit too slow for, today's audiences?
That's definitely a balancing act. You're right. The trick is to keep that limited perspective, but still sprinkle in enough clues, enough breadcrumbs to keep you hooked. Yeah. If the character stays completely in the dark for too long, yeah, it can get frustrating. But when it's done well, that slow burn builds incredible tension because you are constantly trying to solve the puzzle, even if the character isn't quite there yet. It's that delicate dance of giving just enough away.
Okay, so moving from inside the character's head.
Yeah.
What about the world around them? The setting? How does the place itself start to, whisper that something's wrong? It's not just wallpaper, is it?
Oh, not at all. The setting. Immensely powerful. I mean, think about old mansions, castles, all those winding hallways, secret passages. They just scream that something disturbing is hidden away, right?
Wow.
Built into the architecture almost.
Yeah.
And then you have environmental stuff. Nighttime, thick fog, a raging storm. They all limit what characters can see, where they can go, makes them feel much more vulnerable, amplifies the danger. That's partly why places like, say, Victorian London, with those dark, foggy alleys, became such go-to settings for suspenseful stories.
That atmospheric quality.
Exactly. But what's really interesting is how even perfectly normal places or everyday objects can be made to feel sinister. Take the novel Rebecca. The flowers at the main character's new home, they're described as blood red.
Ooh, yeah.
Right, nothing explicitly scary is happening, but that small detail, that description, it creates this little stab of unease in you, the reader. It's all about the suggestion, the feeling it evokes.
That's fascinating how something so simple like the color of flowers can be, weaponized like that. It makes me wonder, though, how does a creator decide? When do you go for the obvious haunted house, and when do you use something subtle like those blood red flowers? Is there like a sweet spot?
It really depends on the kind of feeling you're going for, the tone. The big, obvious settings, like the creepy castle, they give you that instant hit of atmospheric dread. You know what you're in for. But those subtle details, they often stick with you longer. They kind of get under your skin. Those flowers work because it's unexpected, right? Flowers are meant to be beautiful, not menacing. That clash. That makes you question things. Honestly, the best storytellers often use a mix of both. They layer the unease.
Okay, so we've got controlling what we know and using the setting, but what about how the story is actually told? The rhythm, the style that can build suspense too, can it?
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how much style choices can ramp up the tension. Take Edgar Allan Poe, The Telltale Heart.
Classic.
Right, the way the narrator speaks, those fragmented sentences that just braid off suddenly, mixed with these short, sharp declarative statements. It creates this feeling of breathless panic, but also these heavy, unsettling pauses. You feel his unstable mind through the prose itself, and visually. Think Hitchcock.
Master of suspense.
Totally. He was famous for using long stretches of silence, or just holding a shot. Maybe a close-up on someone's face, showing their fear, or those slow, ominous shots of staircases, going up or down. They just make you feel uncomfortable. It really shows how the rhythm, the way it's presented, can be just as powerful as what's actually happening. Keeps you guessing, keeps you on edge.
That's brilliant. The idea that silence or broken sentences can be as impactful as, I don't know, an explosion.
Yeah.
But does that kind of stylistic thing, does it ever risk feeling too, maybe, arty? Or is that feeling of unease just universal?
I think it's pretty universal, actually, because it taps into something deep in us, physiologically. Our brains like patterns, right? We expect a certain rhythm. When that gets disrupted, like Poe's jagged sentences or Hitchcock's super long, quiet it throws us off balance, creates this subconscious sense of wrongness. You might not even consciously think, oh, that's a stylistic choice, but you feel it. It's more visceral than intellectual, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about keeping the audience in the dark, but here's a really interesting twist. Sometimes the tension comes from the complete opposite. You knowing more than the characters.
Ah, yes. Dramatic irony. A fantastic tool. So with dramatic irony, key pieces of the puzzle, maybe even the big secret, are revealed to you, the audience, but crucially not to the characters in the story. And suddenly the whole mystery shifts. It's not what's going to happen anymore. It becomes, oh God, when and how are they going to find out the truth?
Right, you're just waiting for the penny to drop.
Exactly. The classic example is Oedipus Rex. You, the audience, you know right from the start he's killed his father and married his mother. It's horrifying. But he has no idea. And watching him slowly, piece by agonizing piece, uncover that truth, that is the climax. That's the source of the story's power. It changes anticipation into this kind of awful dread. You're witnessing this inevitable train wreck that the character is completely blind to, that creates this unique, almost unbearable kind of suspense.
Wow. Yeah. That is a specific kind of discomfort, isn't it? Knowing something awful is heading for someone totally oblivious. It almost makes you want to shout at the page or the screen like, don't do it. Does that create a different kind of connection with the story compared to just being kept in the dark?
Oh, completely different. It makes you feel almost complicit in a way, like a reluctant witness. You're not just wondering what's next. You're actively dreading it for the character. You're waiting for their world to just shatter. And that puts you in a really specific, often quite uncomfortable emotional state. It builds a different sort of bond, yeah, where your knowledge feels like this heavy weight.
Okay, last one. We've reached a technique that's maybe the most famous or infamous, depending on who you ask, the cliffhanger. We've all been there.
Yeah.
Right? End of a chapter, end of a season, just left hanging.
The cliffhanger. Yeah, its mechanics seem simple, but they're so effective, it just cuts off. Right before the big reveal or, smack bang in the middle of some incredibly dangerous moment where things look really bleak. Now, sure, some people call it a cheap and easy trick.
You hear that sometimes.
You do. But you can't deny how well it works, because it basically hijacks your imagination. By leaving that question hanging, that situation unresolved, it forces your brain to start filling in the gaps. You start creating your own suspense internally, thinking about what might happen next. And that can stick with you way longer than the actual scene. That waiting period, whether it's seconds between pages or months between TV seasons, forces you to run through all the possibilities, builds layer upon layer of suspense. And okay, usually the terrible thing is avoided in the end. You get that release. But that worry, that wondering, it often lingers, makes you anxious for the next time the characters are in deep trouble.
It's almost unfair, isn't it? How powerful just stopping can be. It reminds me of those real-life cliffhangers, like waiting for important news or test results. Your mind just jumps to the worst, doesn't it?
Precisely. And that's exactly why it's so potent in stories. It taps into our basic human need to anticipate, to project what's coming. The story gives you part of the equation, then yanks the rest away. It forces you to try and solve it in your head. And often what you imagine is way more intense or scary than anything the writer could actually put on the page.
So when you boil it all down, it Suspense is really about the masterful delay of information, isn't it? It's the complex dance between what we know and what we're desperate to find out, all designed to keep us absolutely hooked.
That's a great summary. And maybe, just to leave you with something to think about, consider how these ideas, limiting what you know, using suggestive settings, playing with rhythm, knowing more than the characters, that tantalizing cliffhanger, how they show up outside of fiction. Think about the questions in your own life right now, or big things happening in the world where you're just waiting for an answer, waiting to see how it plays out. What specific things are creating that feeling of suspense for you in those real life situations? And maybe, understanding these techniques, could it help you handle that uncertainty a bit better? Or even, maybe, tell more compelling stories yourself. Just something to mull over.